Hey guys, it's Avinch, welcome back to the channel, and we have another review for you today. And this is a follow-on aircraft from BRSim Designs, who built the H-35 Debonair. And this one is the, of course, floating, because Flight Sim loves to launch things in weird ways, the VTOL Bonanza. Now, this is the early model. It's a 57, I believe, and this one contains the 0470G, I think it is, engine, putting out 240 horsepower. Originally built in 57. I think they built around 450-ish of these aircraft. Now, Flight Sim in its launching feature does this stupid thing where you are... There we go. And we landed. Now, I will say, this aircraft comes with 8 liveries, as you can see here. And we had some issues initially with the other Bonanza. It was that the aircraft was too big, and the pilot was too small within it. Or it was too small and the pilot was too small as well. Now, that was something that got fixed, actually. The developer put a lot of work into fixing that and changing it, and upgraded the aircraft a lot. They put a lot of work. About 5 patches came out from BRSim Designs, which to me is always a sign of a good developer. It means that they are someone who cares about their product. And in this case, I actually think the quality of the modelling, at least exterior-wise, has improved on this Bonanza. Now, of course, no aircraft is created equal, but we do have the classic VTOL look of a Bonanza. The exterior texturing is, I'd say, nice, or at least minimum acceptable. It's not the photo classic style of the likes of Coronado, but I don't really necessarily see any major issues. I'm guessing there might be some weight balance amusement going on with how low this aircraft's sitting, although I do remember Bonanzas being quite low slung. Let's quickly take a look, shall we? Where's our weight and balance? Fuel and weight. Okay, so we are overweight here for some reason, so let's drop out some passengers from the back here, because flying with passengers is its own meme, which we're not doing right now, and that's a lot of baggage. Okay, so let's just put 50 pounds of baggage in there. And there we go, that's more like it. So, loads in overweight. That is our first concern, shall we say. She loads in very overweight, like a sumo at a buffet. Now that's more like the classic Bonanza stance and slightly less tail floppy. Let's go and take a look inside. So the cockpit's a lot like the other one they produced, but I actually think this one looks a little bit more refined. Now, of course, we have got the co-pilot controls there, but as with the other model, we have a lot of controls here now. We can switch out the attitude indicator for a modern one, including our altitude and our vertical rate, our barometer as well. I actually quite like using that in the other model, so that's a cool feature. Now, of course, we do have tip tanks, but there are wingtips available for that to help produce wingtip vortice. Does work with the tip tanks, of course. And we have the usual static ground elements, chocks and tie downs. But what is cool in this aircraft, and I will be testing... Where is it? There we go. I can't see anything, can you? That's because there's an actual sheet to go over the aircraft, an actual windshield cover, which is super cool for those parked up at the airfield screenshots, of course. Now, the fun part is this says it can be equipped when the engine's off, but the static elements need to be stopped. I'm going to find out during our test flight if I can put this on in the air, which will be hilarious. Now, of course, we do have the baggage door at the back, which we can open. That's not the baggage door. That might be a doubled up switch there. Yep, that's the baggage door. And we should have full control over our storm window and our cockpit door. We do. Nice. I do like the fact there is actually baggage in the back, and I think this is actually improved over his last version. I could totally fly this. Okay, and we do have the ability to change panel cover as well. I noticed that switch a second ago. Grey. Or black. That I quite like. Now, I believe one of these is the... Okay, that's our GPS. It's just renamed badly as baggage door. I believe there was reference to a... co-pilot controls. That's our total yoke visibility. I'm guessing that might be something else. Of course, we do have the very important ability to open the little glove box, so we can keep our gloves there. So, of course, we have got a similar system to the Husky here, which gives us the ability to have 3D vision, or map view, which is actually a pretty cool feature to have that as a GPS. It's the modern tablet style. It works quite nicely from what we've seen in other systems that use it, and it's a greatly implemented tool. I quite like having that as an ability, because the GPS moving map with touchscreen is really kind of functional. I do like that. Let's lock back onto the aircraft. Let's get this baby spun up and take a look at her as well. Now, this does also have, down here, emergency gear extension, which you can utilize. So you'll have to turn off, actually set the gear to down, and you can actually manually extend those, which is super cool. Alright, let's get everything good to go here. My parking brake is on, I think. There we go. Fuel is on. Clear prop. Okay, the engine is quite quiet here. That is surprising, although I think I may know the cause of that. Sound mixer options. I think I turned this down because I was flying something that really annoyed me. Yep, there we go. Sounds are back. I was flying something that really irritated me and I wanted to turn it down. I think I was having a conversation at the time. So that's on me, actually, rather than the aircraft. So, GPS seems to be linked to the master battery, which is interesting because it should have a battery in its own. But I will digress from that. Okay, we are good here. Everything looks nice and tidy for us. Let's check all our doors and windows are closed. They are not. I've done this one before. Confirm baggage is closed. Okay, let's take her out for a taxi. Now, this is a pretty powerful engine in there with the 240 horses, like it should for a Bonanza. But, of course, it does have the G model Continental engine, which the geared reduction ones weren't known to be as reliable in the gearbox on the engine. So, interesting, but it's BRSim, where it works perfectly, and absolutely as intended by the designers. No mechanical flaws at all found here, but we'll digress. Let's get her out to the runway. Let's take her out for a spin. So, ground handling seems to be good. I'm going to turn here quite fast just to see what she does. No weird tendencies there. No flipping like the Soviet pancake we once tested. We're good there. Let's take her out onto the runway here at Orcas, onto 3-4. Now, I will say, I do think this is much refined over the Debonair in terms of the internal graphics. Let's get her spinning up here and go. Last time I flew a Bonanza, a V-tail, it was the Carenado. I never quite got a chance to get the A2A1, which I heard was a stunner. The Debonair is a little sluggish off the runway, but the Bonanza is certainly not. Or the H35 at least, the V-tail. This is no slouch getting off the runway. No sir, no ma'am. This thing picks up. Okay. That is a comfortable climb rate. And that was with no flaps, by the way. No flaps at all. She just lifted clear of the runway and she's climbing strongly. Lots of power behind the aircraft. Very nice. I like that. Now I'm going to get a little altitude here before we do our next test, which is the important one, of course, to see how she behaves when I put the turn the engine off and try and put the cockpit cover on. I just don't want to do this at about under 1,000 feet because this could go wrong horribly. So we'll climb up here and we'll get about 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet, and we'll see what we can do with this one. Climbing about 900 feet a minute, pretty solid climb rate here, what would be expected for the Bonanza. They were known to be quite quick, high-performance GA aircraft at the time. Let's bring her around a little bit. In-sim performance has been good so far from what I've noticed. I've not really seen any major issues in terms of... Is that fluttering, that aileron? I don't know if that's a sim being weird or that's an actual design feature, but there's a slight flutter. I did move the controls there, but I'm holding it, and I can usually notice a tiny flutter. That would be so cool if that was an actual intended feature. Right, let's do our test, shall we? Engine is cut. Mags off. Oh. Let's try and get the prop to stop, shall we? There we go. Can I put it on now? You cannot put the windshield cover on in flight. They actually thought of this, it seems. Let's go for an air start. I did not hit starter there. I windmilled that. Okay, nice. Yeah, we just put the mags on and we let the prop windmill up to speed and it actually caught and started. Nice. An air start. That is a rather cool ability of the aircraft. See how loud it gets when I open a door. It doesn't change. I recall that being the same thing on the last model he made. Now, it doesn't like to have the door open when you're in flight, but it certainly doesn't stop you. But I'm not going to be a huge negative Nancy on that, because sometimes, I don't know, some people can make it sound way too loud when you open a door or a window. We'll take a round, we'll come back in to land on 3-4, and we'll see what she's like on approach here. So far, I've not really noticed any issues. I'm also noticing there's a lack of gear warning horn when I pull my throttle back to idle. I'm not sure whether the early models actually had this. I know this is a feature brought in from the dentists and bankers who ended up buying their complex GA singles and had plenty of accidents where they landed gear up. The casual flyers in the 50s and 60s. I'm not sure when. If anybody wants to tell me in the comments when the gear warning set horns were introduced or advised by the FAA or a feature that was added. Because I know it wasn't on all aircraft always. But I know it's something that's very common now and almost universal now in retractable gear GA aircraft, is you'll get a horn that sounds when you throttle below a certain level and the gear's up. It could be annoying when you just want to descend, but there you go. So aircraft is not very slippery. Although I will say the VTOL controls are behaving as expected. Normal. Very normal. Let's see what the rudder authority is like when we're on final, though. That will really tell us. So, gear down. Runway is over there. We're a little high, but that's not going to be the end of the world. There's some flaps in here. She becomes suddenly a little floaty with the flaps up. Roll her into final now. Give it some rudder, see what we get out of this. Now I'm on final, we're looking good, but I'm going to just throw us into a bit of a slip here. Yep, I need to power on there to pull out of this one because we are going to drop too low, but the aircraft slips exactly as I expect, even with the VTOL configuration, so the control inputs, which there aren't many aircraft in the sim so far that have this sort of tail setup, so I was curious to see just how well it actually is modelled. I don't know whether they used an invisible, regular tail surface and control surfaces there, but it behaves as I would expect. I have no actual time in Bonanza, so I can't tell you if it's accurate to a Bonanza, but it behaves itself very well. Let's put it down here. Landing behavior is very placid. Sync rate is relatively high, actually, but not bad. And overall, she's predictable. Speeds are well behaved. The aircraft doesn't have any unusual tendencies. No massive float. It flies really nicely, I have to say. I was surprised. I was remembering the Debonair was quite a sluggish aircraft by this developer, and there were some little niggling bits in the cockpit that I wasn't quite happy with. It didn't quite feel as refined as it could be. The VTOL Bonanza, I've got to say, and I've had a couple of aircraft that were given to me to review by the developers recently, notably the Microjet and the P-38 Lightning. This one, like most of the aircraft I review, was purchased by myself. And speaking of money, this is €28 normal, and it's available on SimMarket. There'll be a link in the description. if you already own the Debonair, you get this at $21 rather than $28. So you do save money when you upgrade and get this version from the developer. So yes, there's a lot of similarities, but this does feel like a much more refined product, I will say, than the Debonair. A much better second iteration from that developer. I'm quite pleased. And you do get a discount if you own the previous model. So, much improved aircraft. And discount. I do not feel like I wasted my €21 on this. This feels like a very valid purchase. And I am quite pleased. So, that is a rather good pick, I think. 8 liveries. A rather nice model. Flies great. Really good flight performance. Takeoff performance is good. Really like that. And it looks nice. And it has all those playable features that I really want in an aircraft. It has the ground candy. It has the tablet sitting in the cockpit. It has other switchable features that I can play with and do things to. For €21, totally a valid purchase. If I had to pay 28, I'd actually be happy paying €28. So this one gets an average thumbs up. I'd say this is a... Maybe there's some room to tweak some bits and pieces, but this is a solid 8 out of 10. Maybe a 9. Probably an 8 is fairest, I think. So, I rather like this. I think this is a really fun plane. It has lots of nice features, and it does exactly what I ask of it. So, hopefully you found this, guys, helpful, guys. Hopefully you found this useful. And I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.